Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave all worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they be, dream a little dream of me.
Good morning. You are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz, 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. I am Catherine Bell, and this is the Dream Journal, a weekly show where we explore the healing powers of your nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with you. In the words of Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Today's music, created fresh for you by Rick Kleffel, is called Clarionify. So how do you make it like a clarion? Today, award-winning poet Gilda Morina Syverson will share with us some of her dream-inspired creations and speaks about how her Italian-American father inspired her interest in things psychic, from yoga to spiritual guides to dreams. And what do potholders have to do with anything? Listen today and find out. I am Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. The Dream Journal is also a podcast, so you can look for that on all of your regular podcast places. We have almost 3 years of archives now. You can also go to the KSQD website to find those archives. That's ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. I would really encourage you to go to the podcast places and to rate and review the show. It really helps people find it. But, even more important is just to talk to other people about the Dream Journal and use that as an opportunity for you to open up and talk about your own dreams. There is a lot of power in talking about your own dreams, and what a good opportunity. My personal dream work, speaking of talking about your own dreams. Well, here's a dream I've been mulling over for a little while. Oh gosh, I'm kind of going back and forth. I have 2 dreams that popped up for me. Well, I'm going to take the one about the wedding dress. So there's something about a wedding dress. As many of you know, I actually got married this fall. Yay! That was so exciting. So my wedding dress in the dream, though, is I'm stitching up this dress, and it's not white. It has these dark panels of all the different colors that I like to wear, like maroon and navy and olive, and it has a kind of a bodice with a low cut to it, which is not my usual style, but, maybe there's something about being a relationship that's a little, vulnerable, a little bit revealing and sharing what goes on inside of me with my loved one. And that's very revealing. But there's another part of the dream where I am stitching onto the inside of the dress this old blanket that my husband has from his family. So it's a little bit worn. It has a few holes and tears, but it's really soft and really cozy. And in the dream, I'm stitching it to the inside of this dress. And there's something beautiful about taking on Max, my husband, and taking on all parts of him as he is. We're not spring chickens, either of us. We have our histories, and whatever age, we all have our different selves that we bring together in a relationship. And for me, there's something beautiful about the idea of bringing, accepting and really bringing close to my skin all these parts of my beloved. So just taking a moment to feel that wedding dress on my body and just imagining what that's like to have somebody so close to your skin. Relationship has been challenging for me, and I feel like this is a good one. So celebrate that. Gilda Morina Syverson is a poet, author, artist, and educator with an MFA from Southern Illinois University. She is a Healing Touch Practitioner and a Memoir Instructor. Gilda has been writing poetry for over 35 years, much of which is based on her extensive dream life. Her books of poetry are called In This Dream, Everything Remains Inside, and Facing the Dragon. Gilda's award-winning poetry and prose have appeared in literary journals, magazines, and anthologies in the U.S. and in Canada. Her Italian-American heritage is also the impetus for many of her poems, and her first memoir, My Father's Daughter, From Rome to Sicily, and her webpage is gildasyverson.com. So, welcome on the show, Gilda.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So, I met you through Katie Mason, and I think you called in when we had Katie on the show, or was it Doris?
No, it was Doris.
It was
Snyder.
Doris.
Yeah,
Doris Snyder. Yes, another wonderful dreamer who I'm happy to be connected with. And we heard that you have dream poetry, and I thought we should just go ahead and start right out with a poem, if that works for you.
It does. Thank you. Yes. And the poem I'm going to read is called Ancestors.
Okay.
Floating in and out of waking, I'd see faces of departed female ancestors. My great aunt, Sia Cungetta, her sister, Sia Barbara, whom I never knew, my father's mother, Nana Nicolina, Mom's sister, Aunt Josie, who died at 33. Each woman took her turn, hovering close by, like mother owls returning to nurture their young. Tonight, not just faces, but voices emerge, along with those who've since passed on. Another great aunt, Sia Rosa, and Nana Egidia, the grandmother I'm named after. She calls from across the way. I call back to her, and the moon, and the hawk, and the raven. All gather, glide across space. I awake, and they vanish, leaving shadows.
Wow, this is beautiful, Gilda. I love the relatives like owls kind of fluttering around. And then the birds, the ravens, and the hawk.
Yes. And the moon.
Ah, yes.
We can't leave out the moon.
No, can't leave out the moon. Yeah. Someday everything is more magical in moonlight.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
So how did you first get interested in dreams? Like, what called you to your dreams? And then I also want to talk about how you started to create poetry out of your dreams.
Okay, so that's a great question. In my memoir, My Father's Daughter, From Rome to Sicily, which you just mentioned, I have a quick line in there that says, I share a story about my childhood and my father owning a hardcover black book that included the meaning of dreams that I frequently looked through when he was working at the barbershop he owned and operated. There were other topics, from astrology to yoga, that also piqued my interest. I'm not sure Dad read all of them, but my father was really interested in dreams, and he would always tell my siblings and I, there are 8 of us, and my cousin Anne-Marie lived with us 9, and my father would always tell us his dreams, or he'd get halfway through and say, oh, I'll fill you in on that at another time. So I was one of those who really sat by and listened to his dream. And that book, that black book, he told me he didn't want me looking at it anymore. But when he was at the barbershop, I would look at it. And then when I left for college, he gave me that book. Wow. And I still have it.
Why do you think he didn't want you to look at it? I'm curious about that.
Oh, I don't know. My guess is it was, I grew up in a very Italian-American Catholic home. And even though his big interest was the dream part, and he really believed in like messengers, like angels, that kind of thing. But I don't know, maybe it was the numerology in there, the chakras, of course, which is now I'm involved with in Healing Touch, handwriting analysis. I don't know. Sometimes my mother would say, Nick, stop telling her these things. You're just going to, because everyone else after a while would just leave, and I would just sit at his feet listening to these dream things that he told us about. He even had a dream walking on the stars toward heaven. And the younger generation, he taught them the song, and they sang it at every birthday party or event we got together, including my cousins.
No, where did the song come from?
It came from a dream.
Oh, you mean he wrote a song based on a dream?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I think, I think it's been in my family, this dream, this love for dreams, and it really came from my father. So it happened years ago, and I started writing poetry, dream poems. Well, I've written down my dreams for a long time, and then I began to just turn them into poems. And so I keep a journal by my bed, and I write down. I mean, in the middle of the night, if I'll put on a little light and I'll write it down. My husband's so used to it now, and I don't want to lose those dreams, Catherine. And so, and I liked just, I didn't do dream. I have gone to some dream workshops, and I'm in a small dream group now with Doris Snyder. But I've always, for years, wanted to just work out what was going on through the words. Because like that poem I just read, Ancestors, I edited it and, worked it out over and over again.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right.
So that's where it all began.
Wow. I love that. And so what, so it's interesting. I love how the richness of bringing together your heritage, your Italian American heritage, your Catholic heritage, and the magic and the dreams. And the dreams have really just always been present for you, and that feels like such a blessing. So many of us were told, "Oh, that's just a dream. Oh, that's nobody wants to hear your dream." And so, I love that your father was someone who really modeled appreciation for dreams and curiosity.
Yes. And when I was first married, my husband, Stu, he'd get up and have to go to work, and I'd say, let me tell you about this dream I just had. And so he'd sit at the end of the bed, put on his shoes, and he'd say, Gilda, I'm going to be late for work. And so when I started writing them in poems, I said, I can't tell you my dream because I have to work it out in poetry. I think he was so happy. But I just think, as I know you do, that dreams are a gift. They really help. If I don't have a dream after about 2 weeks or so, I think there's something seriously wrong because I have such an avid dream life, really.
Right. Well, the times that I have been without dreams for long periods of time are times when I'm kind of stuck, or else I'm in a lot of pain. Sometimes if I'm, like when I was breaking up with a boyfriend 10 years ago or something, and I just was frozen and numb, and I wasn't willing to feel how much pain I was in. And that was one of the longest times I've been without dreams since I started working with them. And it was about 3 weeks. Because it was just so painful to, be willing to recognize that I was leaving this person and it wasn't going to work. And when I so much wanted it to work.
Yeah, it's good to know that, I think, and to say, that it's okay if you don't have dreams for 2 or 3 weeks. And I wish I had heard that, when I wasn't going through it. And, but yeah, it can be very painful. And so I can see where the dream life might disappear for a short time.
Right, right. So there's something that, in some of you sent me, is you want to talk a little bit about spiritual guides. I wonder if we could take a moment and talk about spiritual guides.
Okay. So spiritual guides. Well, as I sent to you, I've been in the Healing Touch program, and I went through it a number of years ago, and there's a big support there for spiritual guides. But I think if you think about it, as a Catholic, I was raised to believe in guardian angels and that kind of guide. And then it just moved on because I read Ancestors, I think especially not only for the women there, but also because of the moon, the hawk, the raven. Because when I see animals, they are guides for me. Like if a raccoon appears, I go rummaging through my book to see what raccoon stands for, and it's always very helpful. So I see, and they're part of nature. They're part of the spiritual world for me, anyway. And so those are, I think, the spiritual guides that are for me. I actually drew angels for about 10 plus years, and a number of years ago. And then I got so involved in writing that first memoir, they kind of, they're around, but I'm not working on them as much.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's where I think spiritual guides are for me.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you access them in waking life as well, so that you can bring these dream characters into waking life?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yes, actually. My mother passed away in September.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And that's probably also why I read Ancestors. She's not in there. But I studied with I did a couple workshops with a woman, Jenny Yates, a Jungian analyst, and she did some, I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she did some programs, and she sent me this beautiful podcast that she did, and she talked about being able to still connect with those on the other side during the day and in the dream life, that, you could really do that. And I'm in a group, a Jungian group with astrology here again. And another younger woman had told me the same thing just the week before. So I do bring it into my daily life. I mean, I'm a writer and an artist, and so it can be a part of my daily life. It just seems to fit in for me.
Right. Well, I find that bringing the images themselves into my waking life has a way of keeping me grounded. Like the way I always start the show by sharing my current dream work, and that just bringing that image that feels like it kind of blurring the line a little bit between the conscious and the unconscious, between the awake and the sleep, and like bringing a little bit of magic into the moment. Yes.
I like that. I like that you start with a dream.
Yeah.
I've heard a number of your programs, and I like that because it just supports that whole concept that you're talking about, that we have the waking moment and we have the dream life, and they're all part of us.
And, I think of the show as kind of a little bit of a nudge toward the dream revolution, where we can bring dreams into waking life, and we get to really access that deeper part of ourself. Is something that I really am really wanting to do with this show, is to make dreams something that we can all talk about and appreciate. You are listening to K-Squid 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. Oh, this is the Dream Journal. My name is Catherine Bell. We are speaking today to Gilda Morina Syverson. And this is the Squid, 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. And I am your host, Catherine Bell. The topic today is dreams and poetry. So welcome back, Gilda.
Thank you.
Yes. So I wonder, should we want to just start out with another dream poem?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, I'd love to. This poem, the title is The Night Before Intervention Day to Save Our Brother's Life. And Catherine, this poem came from my sister Bridget.
Oh, wow.
My sister Bridget's dream. Sisters appear out of mist, our bodies, hands and feet covered in gray. Only we can see each other peering beneath hooded cloaks. I look at Bridget, hold my finger to mouth, whisper, shh. We ghost through hospital corridors on a mission to release our brother from one bed, transfer him to another across the river. Scattering in different directions, we forge through steel equipment, brick walls, closed doors, move in and out of ERs, ICUs, records, the ambulance department, arrange a transport. Dawn, we reconvene around our brother's bed, hold our hands above his heart, step away. 4 float out the door. Bridget and I hold back. I turn right. She left. We reunite. We reunite near the nurse's station for one final check. She glares at me from across the corridor, raises her eyebrows in concern. Let's go, I say. It's done. Smile, that grin we inherited from our father.
I love that common inheritance, and I'm really fascinated that you wrote this dream about a poem from somebody else.
I know. I had to think about that. She told me about it, and of course, for anyone who knows me, they know I obsessively go over and over and edit and re-edit my poems, because that's the way I figure things out, is by using the words and re-editing. So I'd love to ask Bridget again exactly what her dream was, because I think I might have made some changes, and but it was kind of fun to do that. And the poem wasn't fun because we almost lost my brother.
Yeah.
But in real life, we were kind of doing all that. There were 6 of us girls, and we were determined to keep him alive, and we did. And so it was fun to do it. Fun, and I enjoyed working with Bridget's dream.
Right. Well, there's something about creating a dream that kind of crystallizes or distills a moment for me and kind of brings it into a symbolic level, kind of recognizing the multiple levels of meaning that even a waking life event can have. And of course, dreams have many, many levels of meaning. And so and dreams are natural sources of poems in that for me. And,
yes. Do you write poetry, Kathy?
I do. In fact, I was just jotting down a poem that I had written a couple years ago that I thought I might share on the air at some point.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And so maybe let's maybe wait till the third segment when we do the call-ins, and I'll be like one of the callers. I can read my dream poem. Actually, Gilda, we have a question on email for you.
Okay.
So this is from Clifton, and the question is Virginia and Cliff Stone, listening from Holden Beach, North Carolina, and asking, do you still draw angels? Great program. Thank you for sending the email, Cliff. I really appreciate it. Do you still draw angels? Yes.
Actually, I have not been drawing angels for a while, although it's interesting, since my mother passed on, I have been doing a little art. I've been sort of incorporating a little art into my life.
Like painting?
And I'm sorry?
What kind of art?
Oh gosh. Well, I was doing some collage work, and I was doing some drawing, and my angels were all drawings, mixed media with a gold leaf in the background. And so I've been doing a little of that, which kind of surprised me. And that it's also... when you mentioned earlier, is when I started doing potholders, which I haven't done since Girl Scouts.
Let's talk about potholders. I'm very curious about that.
Well, so I hope I answered Cliff's question. So will I be getting back into doing angels? It seems like anything's possible right now. There's such a shift in consciousness. And the potholders... I have a little poem. If we have time, I'll read it.
Sure.
And it reminds me of the program with Doris Snyder when we talked about daydreaming. Remember when there was a lot of conversation around daydreaming? And the potholders, I started doing it. I ordered some material, and I started doing it because when I would get so anxious about my feelings about my mother's death, because it was unexpected, I would be able to sit down, and it really calmed me down to do these potholders. And so
let me ask, are these like sewn, like with a machine, or with crochet, or how do you do the potholders?
I don't know if you ever, when I was a kid, you used to be able to buy these little potholder forms, weaving forms.
Like with like little stretchy bands that you put on a metal frame with, is that what you're talking about?
Yes. And then I went and bought a bigger one, which is made of wood and nails that somebody makes. And it just relaxed me. And I was surprised myself that I was doing that. So I kind of think of it as a kind of creative craft.
Absolutely. Well, it's all about colors. I mean, that's the thing, is choosing the colors and laying out the colors and how do they look next to each other. I actually recently went to a exhibit in San Jose, which I believe is now over, called Beyond Van Gogh, where which is an amazing experience of being in a huge room with Van Gogh images on all 4 walls and the floor, and just being able to walk around these posts in the middle of the floor and screens, and just this being totally saturated with the images of Van Gogh, and very dreamy, very dreamlike experience with one image flowing to the other, and colors. It's all about the colors.
Yes, it's all about that. And we had that here too. And I remember early on in my art life, because I've been involved since high school, I loved Van Gogh. So that's
me too.
brought him up, yeah.
Yep. So the potholders. So you had a dream about potholders. You've been making potholders. Tell me a little bit about. Tell me some more. More.
Well, the potholders. It's a small poem. Would you like me to read it?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, very recent poem, and I'm in this fabulous poetry group, and so they've heard this and kind of helped me with it. And potholders. All I want to do is stretch colored loops over each nail. The warp, the weft, the repetition of hues and deciding what to do while moving above and below each coil. One, then another, yet another, grounds me across current winds of unrest, while weaving each hoop up and over, around and around, circle outside edges, finish each side, attach a final loop, start again.
It's like a meditation. Like I'm imagining moving the hands and weaving the loops under and over and under and over and attaching to the nails.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, you really got that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and so how does that tie in with dreams? Do you do you kind of bring in dream images as you're weaving the potholders, or?
I think for me it was a form of daydreaming.
Yes.
I never thought. I'm a big daydreamer, and when I remember, actually, it was probably that same fourth grade class that my mother was called in and said, she's a dreamer. And so I was so excited when my first book was, the first book that I wrote had dream on the title, In This Dream, because they saw it as something was wrong, whereas we all know there's something right. So I see that as more of like a daydream.
Oh.
And
yeah, why don't you talk to us a little about daydreams? I know Doris Snyder talks a lot about daydreams. We had her on the show. I'll put a link to that show in the show notes. But what are daydreams to you? And this is some way that perhaps we can kind of blur the lines between waking and sleeping and get more in touch with our intuition. But how do you see daydreams, and what's the benefits of them, and how do you use them?
Well, for me, I use it creatively, of course. And I think in some ways, even when I go back into my writing, and I am critiquing or editing my writing, I'm like in this daydream state, and I'm in this creative state. So I think for me, daydreaming is my creative life, actually. And if something comes up, I make sure, like say I'm in the middle of cooking something, which of course I make it as a creative project as well, but I'll jot things down, I'll jot thoughts down. And I think that daydreaming for me, I think if you think about it, Catherine, isn't it kind of like that connection between the other side and the world we live in? In a way, daydreaming provides that. I don't know what you think about that.
Oh, I agree. I think maybe I'd be interested to see, funny how I go to the brain. I'm pretty interested to see like fMRI studies of daydreaming. Like people daydream, are they much closer to a dreaming state? Are they like accessing more of their deep kind of subconscious self, the parts of themselves that are often drowned out by the noise and clatter of that darn prefrontal cortex, which has so much to say, so many opinions and judgments.
Oh, yeah.
Getting away from those opinions and judgments, and that if we can just dream and let go, it's almost is there a connection here between meditation and daydreaming?
Yes, I think there must be. I meditate every morning. Now it took me a while to find my own comfortable way of doing it, but I have found my own process. But I think there's a big connection between daydreaming and meditation.
Right. In fact, I've actually starting another meditation practice. Listeners will know I've tried many times, but so far this one is the most successful for the last month and a half or so. I've been doing just this process where I get up in the morning, and just 5 days a week, and for 7 minutes I just sit there with my eyes open and just sit there and just like let my mind wander and just. I don't know. I'm not trying to shut anything off. I'm not trying to achieve anything. I'm not trying to get anywhere, but just like letting my mind wander, but really simply. And it's interesting to kind of follow my mind rather than directing my mind.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So far I'm enjoying this very much, and it is a bit of daydreaming here.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Oh, speaking of Doris, we actually have Doris on the line.
Oh.
How about this? Fabulous. Doris, let me say hello, since you are a special caller, since we've been talking about you this whole hour. We should definitely let you say hello. Hi.
Hi.
Doris.
Hi, Catherine. Hi, Gilda.
Hi, Doris. Great to hear your voice.
I had to call in because Gilda is someone that I had the pleasure of working with on memoir writing, and she is an amazing spirit guide.
You're very kind. Thank you, Doris.
Oh, absolutely, Gilda. You are gifted, truly gifted. I have a question, and it's kind of piggybacking with a question from Clifton about drawing angels, and it just stood out for me in what you were talking about in terms of, can you share what angels and that process of drawing them? Did they channel through you, or how did you do that? If you could elaborate more on that, Gilda, I'd love to hear that.
Well, I almost feel like the angels are saying, okay, remind her of the angels. I mean, I have almost 100 of them, so there's a lot, but some of them I felt channeled. I had a friend whose mother had passed on, and I kept trying to do another drawing, and finally I turned the paper over. I said, Anne, is this you? And boy, didn't I start drawing really quickly. And some of them, like all of my siblings, have an angel, and my brother-in-law, who had been in a hospital, I drew an angel while he was in there in an intensive care, and that was sort of a way of getting through. So I think some of them are people that I know. People used to call me, and I'd connect with them about drawing their angels, and we just came through what I called angel time of year, all through. The weeks before Christmas, the angels just seem to be around. And so they are people I know, or in some cases, just something hit me and I started drawing them. Does that answer your question, Doris?
It does.
Oh.
It does. If I may follow up, have you done the same thing with the totem animals, the hawk and the raven?
Well, I have not, but I have done just wings. Like I've drawn, I went from doing those angels for over 10 years, and I started just doing wings. And so the idea of wings just appealed to me so much. So thank you for that.
Wow, Doris, what a beautiful, beautiful question, and I'm so glad that we had a chance to talk about angels. This is a very popular show. I actually now have 4 emails. You are listening to The Dream Journal. I'm Catherine Bell. My guest is Gilda Morina Syverson. Her webpage is gildasyverson.com. And you are listening to The Squid, K-Squid, 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. We have, I have 3 emails and another caller on the line. This is so exciting. So I think poems are really popular topic right now. So I want to say hello to the caller on the line. I know we have Doris, but there's another caller too. And then thank you. The name is Larry from North Carolina. Hello, Larry.
Hi, it's good to for you to let me in on this.
Absolutely,
it's a fabulous program.
Thanks for calling.
I'm an old friend of Gilda's, and and yet here I am hearing things about her I didn't know. Despite the fact
not always the way.
We write together in a group, and I did not know that her father was so supportive of the Dreamwork. I got to say, I'm a little envious that I don't have a family that was able to do that for me. Mm-hmm. But it's just wonderful. And I'm curious about her process to some extent. So maybe I'll learn even more than I already knew, particularly around, in some of her dreams and some of her poems, she sort of actively imagines going into them, but she doesn't necessarily name them as dreams, and they just become. I know her well enough to know that they're dreams, and they sort of bring you into that world. But how does she feel about whether or not you need to name them?
What do you think about that, Gilda?
Oh, that's a great question. And hello, Larry. Thank you for calling in. Larry is an amazing person to poet himself and to be in a poetry group with. And it doesn't bother me not to name them as dreams, although people who get to know my work, they can tell when I've showed up with a dream poem. But it doesn't bother me because I think I don't think I knew this early on, but maybe it has something to do with being able to live in both worlds, on both sides of the veil. And so maybe that's why, and I'm getting to learn that. But it doesn't bother me. Does it bother you, Larry, when I bring a poem in like that?
Well, I don't think it bothers me about yours. It's just when I start writing dreams, I have this tremendous urge, I got to tell everybody it's a dream.
It was just a dream.
I actually think yours is better. Yeah, I think, or to name it. But I do think you're right. I think that by not naming it, it blurs those lines between the worlds.
And a dream is an experience that we have. Like, this is one of the things that Carl Jung would say, is that it is an actual experience. Just because we were asleep and it was inside our heads, it's still something we experienced. So it's legitimate in its own right.
Well,
yeah.
And Larry's a good one to talk about Carl Jung because besides poetry, Larry's on the board of the Charlotte Friends of Jung, and he's brought in some amazing people, and so he's a good one to bring Jung up with.
Well, maybe we'll get you on another show, Larry. Have you sign you up, get you to be a guest here. That'd be fabulous.
Well, we've often, in Charlotte, we've brought in Steve Eisenstadt.
Oh, yeah, he's wonderful.
So involved with dreams. He's been fabulous with us, for us.
Absolutely.
But I think that all goes into the importance of being able to interact with dreams through poetry, and I don't know anybody better at it than Gilda is. And I didn't realize how much her father was helpful in that aspect. That's very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice to give him credit, isn't it, Larry? Yeah.
Well, and the fact that he's one of those ancestors now, I just love that ancestor poem that you started with. That was fabulous.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
No better way to meet our ancestors than in the dreams and in writing them. Yeah.
Thank you, Larry. Yeah. So wonderful. And that is one thing I am excited about this, Gilda. I have never really thought a lot about the ancestors. I mean, I thought about like healing from like the wounds of our ancestors, but actually to connect with them as well and bring their strength into my life, as well as, sometimes I feel like, oh gosh, it's on me to kind of heal all that.
Yeah.
which is something, it's an opportunity, but it sometimes feels like a burden. But also to bring in their strengths. I find myself thinking of my father's mother, Emma Bell, who was a nurse and kind of a frontier nurse. And she just popped into my head as a kind of an angel in my life, one of those owls.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I love you calling her an owl.
Yeah.
That's so nice, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for calling, Larry. I want to check in with some of these emails.
Yeah, yes, this is a great show. Thank you very much for putting it on.
I'm so delighted.
Thank you, Larry.
You're so welcome.
Bye-bye.
All right. So we do have 3 emails, more emails. I want to take a just quick look at some of these. This is one from Ray, who's a regular Santa Cruz caller. I wish I was home at my computer. I'd read you a poem my mother wrote about an angel that appeared at the foot of her bed a year before her husband got a tumor in his brain. He had surgeries, but passed a couple years later. But the angel brought her strength to get through it all. Oh, my goodness. I feel like I'm going to cry. She knew it all the way through that is why the angel appeared to her. Ray, thank you. Wow.
Beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yes.
And then here's Jacqueline Zimmerman. thanks for having this conversation. This is addressed to Gilda. I came to focus on dreams when I began psychotherapy and reading Freud on dreams. In psychotherapy, dreaming became the aid for unleashing my self's story to free myself of what trapped me in the unhealthy part of my story. That was a major part of my healing. Does this sound familiar in your work on dreams? This is from Jackie Zimmerman.
Oh, yes, I really think so. I mean, it really is the healing part. I think the reason thank you, Jackie, that was beautiful. Yeah. And I think when I don't dream, like that's rare, but I went through a period of not dreaming for about 3 weeks, as I mentioned earlier. I felt different inside, like something was missing. And because of Zoom and the COVID now, I was able to hop on to a Chicago Friends of Young group. And I posed that question. The woman was kind of, 3 weeks? That's all. Don't worry about it.
Well, and there is something about reframing the stories of our life that I think Jackie is pointing to here. And I find dreams so valuable with that. And as for not being able to remember dreams, it's an interesting synchronicity that our fourth email is actually about that specific topic. So let me bring this into the conversation here. This is from Anne. Gilda is a dear friend and colleague and has always inspired me with her dream work. Whenever I have an intense dream, I think of Gilda and what she would say about it. Here's my question. My husband rarely dreams. Based on your earlier conversation, does that mean he is stuck or frozen in a part of his subconscious? And now I want to bring a lot of tenderness there. I think it's different to be a really active dreamer and then have we call it a dream drought, have a bit of a dream drought if you've been really active. But if you've really never remembered your dreams, I don't think it's a problem. I think there's lots of people who just don't remember them, like on a regular basis. So that's my opinion. What do you think about that, Gilda?
I agree with you, Catherine. Some of us dream and some of us don't.
Yeah.
And my husband doesn't remember his dreams. I mean, he did remember one once about a year ago, and I just grabbed it and made a poem out of the end of it, out of the last part. But I totally agree with you. I think that some of us, that's part of how our brain is wired.
Yeah.
Don't you think
Absolutely.
so?
Thank you for bringing in the brain, too, because I think it's actually kind of miraculous that anybody ever remembers a dream, that the parts of the brain that are active when we're dreaming are like, the hippocampus, the amygdala, and the that kind of really deep, kind of they used to call it the limbic system, the kind of primitive part of the brain. Those are the most active when we're dreaming, and yet when we're awake, it's more like the prefrontal cortex and the high, quote unquote, higher functions, the later evolution part of the brain, and that kind of drowns out those deeper things. And yet, even anybody who's in a dream drought or people who says, "Oh, I never dream," the research has shown that this is just not true. Everybody does dream. Many times a night. It's just a question of whether you can remember them or not.
Yes.
Even if we're in a dream drought, then we are still dreaming. We're just not getting access to them. And I think, I said, I think it's kind of miraculous that we ever get to access them, because they do happen at a very different level of brain functioning than is typical during our waking life. So I wouldn't worry about your husband, and I think that's he just has a different relationship to his brain. Like maybe it's just not, those neural connections aren't there. But she says he rarely dreams, not never. So it could be that there are there are little windows, and I have the belief that we can deepen those windows. That if you do have any kind of a dream, just to be with it and talk about it, and not necessarily look for any solution. It's not like I have to figure out what it means. Just to honor it, like, oh yeah, there's a little window into what's happening at this deeper level in my mind.
Yeah. I like that. I agree with you, Catherine.
Yeah. So I think there are definitely people who Anne sent a reply. She sent a reply to what we're saying. So great to have this interactive email here. She says, so interesting. Thank you. My husband is also very logical. LOL. And, I don't know. There could be a study about that. Like, do people who are more logical and kind of the thinking function as opposed to the feeling function, are they less likely to remember their dreams? Maybe so. I mean, I was certainly a very logical person for a long I thought I was anyway. Maybe I never was. I just thought that's just part of my story that I had to shift. But I do wonder. So, but I don't think it's anything to worry about.
Yeah, good. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this is time for me to read my dream.
I was wondering the exact same thing.
Okay.
We must have been on the same wavelength.
Yeah, I think so. We've got a lot of synchronicity going on today. This is great.
Yeah. Good.
So this is a dream that I wrote when I was first getting started with, no dream, that's funny, I called it, it's a poem that I wrote about a dream that I had explored. I'd explored this dream at a retreat when I was first getting really intensive in Dreamwork in the early 2000s. And I just had this really powerful experience at a retreat. And as I flew back on the airplane, I wrote this poem, and I may not have it exactly word perfect, but it's pretty close. And just kind of opening up to what's happening inside me. And this poem is called Glimmer. Bathed now in the golden light that shines beyond the wall, Grace is standing, arms outstretched, her face a silent call. Perhaps tomorrow fear returns with loneliness and rage. Love seems distant, hope obscure, and self-hate sets the stage. But in this moment, love is here. For now, I take my part. This precious moment, stay with me, a glimmer in my heart.
Oh, that is beautiful, Catherine. I love the rhythm that you've created in the chant. It's really lovely.
Yeah, I find that the rhythm is something that really speaks to me in poetry that I create. And yeah, thank you. And I'm also remembering that Doris is still on the line. Are you still there, Doris?
I am.
Yes, fabulous. Good. Yeah, no, I'm so glad to have you here on the line. And just reading that poem kind of melts me and brings me to a place of where the door was open, like that I had that kind of shut feeling of a wall kind of closing me off from myself. And in this dream, there was like an opening, and this woman named Grace was there, and just this golden light poured out, and it just felt like such an opening.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, Catherine.
Thank you, Doris. So, Doris, I'm curious, do you ever write poetry around your dreams?
Actually, when I was younger, I did, and it always had to do with art.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Say more about that. What do you mean?
Certain images seem dreamlike to me. Certain works of art seem dreamlike, like you were talking about with Van Gogh. And so they inspired me back in college days to do haiku for a while and then poems.
Right. There's something about the creative state that I think it kind of accesses that deeper part of my brain, if you like, or your soul, if you prefer. I don't think there's any difference there. That it kind of accesses that dream place, whether it's painting or poetry or daydreaming or meditation even. Maybe these are all different ways to get access to the deeper parts of who we are.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Catherine, the accessing of the soul.
Yeah.
And you gave so many ways of doing that. Didn't you think so, Doris?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for calling, Doris, and I will talk to you soon, I'm sure.
I look forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you, Gilda. This was an amazing program.
Oh, thank you
Yes.
very much, Doris, and thank you for introducing me to Catherine.
I love it, the old girl network.
Yeah, don't you love it? Yeah.
Okay, so Gilda, this is Gilda Morina Syverson. Webpage is gildasyverson.com. And I wonder, can you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you?
Okay, well, if you go to my webpage, gildasyverson.com, there's a contact up there. And so you can just click on the contact and send me an email, and I will get it.
Well, Gilda, this is amazing. Thank you. And I am sure to check out your webpage and see your offerings coming up, and let's keep in touch.
Okay, Catherine, and thank you so much for including me. This has been great fun.
Yes, totally fun. What a wonderful opportunity. Take care.
Okay, you too. Bye now.
Bye.
Stars fading, but I linger on, dear, still craving your kiss.
I am Catherine Bell, and this has been the Dream Journal. Thanks for listening. You can find out more about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com, and you can email me at catherine@ksqd.org. That's KATHERINE@ksqd.org. If you have a dream you're curious about, please contact me so I can sign you up for a free introductory dream consultation. I'd like to thank my music creator, Rick Kleffel, and the phone jockey, Tony Russimano, and thank all the donors who support this station. We are volunteer run, and if you'd like to throw a few dollars our way, go to ksqd.org and tell them you are a Dream Journal listener. When you wake up tomorrow morning, take a minute to look within. Do you remember a dream? Write it down and bring it to the next Dream Journal. I am Catherine Bell, and you are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz.
Climbed aboard the Dreamweaver train.